In our last video, we explored the issue of how you dissolve a nonprofit organization that is shutting down. Now you've got questions about that, so let's see if we can get you some answers. Hi, I'm Greg McRae, founder and CEO of Foundation Group, and welcome back to our 501c3 University channel, where we strive to make nonprofit issues understandable. We'd be grateful if you hit that like button and consider subscribing so that you can be the first to know when we issue new content. The topic of dissolving a nonprofit is a tough one. Generally speaking, no one's very happy when they have to make the tough decision to shut down their organization. But as we discussed in last week's video, which we'll put a link to down below, sometimes it's unavoidable. But that video raised some questions from our audience members, and we want to make sure and clear some things up for you. So our first question comes from Anna in Colorado. And Anna writes, I understand that the requirement is for a nonprofit that is shutting down to distribute all of its assets to another charity. Does that charity have to have 501c3 status? Great question, Anna. Let's look at that more closely. As I explained in the video on Dissolution, the IRS requires all 501c3 organizations to include a statement in their articles of incorporation that says that they will distribute their assets for charitable purposes should the organization dissolve. The key phrase here is charitable purposes. Now, it's entirely possible that a nonprofit will choose to rephrase that restriction to say that they're going to give their assets to another 501c3 organization. Another group may go so far as to name in advance the organization they're going to donate their assets to if they dissolve. I'm not a big fan of restricting your possibilities that much, but that's for you to decide. It's perfectly fine to be that restrictive. That said, it's also just as acceptable to go much broader and say that you will give your assets for charitable purposes. Now, that phrasing is the minimum required by the IRS, and it gives the nonprofit a lot of leeway in deciding how they will donate their assets. It could be to another 501c3 organization. It could also be to a charitable project operating in the community. Or they could even give their assets to a foreign group that is doing objectively charitable work. The key point when distributing assets to a non-501c3 organization is that the burden of proof that the distribution is suitable is on the leadership of the dissolving organization. Now, chances are the IRS will never question it, but your state's attorney general might. So, Anna, feel free to do what your organization feels is best. Just know that if the distribution target does not have a 501c3 determination letter, you must know that the work your recipient is doing is indeed charitable by IRS standards. Question 2 comes from Daniel in Tennessee. Daniel asks, so what happens if your nonprofit continues to receive donations after it dissolves? What do we do with the money? Well, Daniel, I would say the most obvious answer is give it back. You have a responsibility to inform your donors, to the best of your ability anyway, of your nonprofit's demise and to let them know that they should no longer support your organization financially. That said, it's entirely possible that someone, not knowing of your dissolution, decides to give to you after the fact. So what do? I think the only legal and ethical answer here is to return the donation and inform the donor that you can no longer accept their gifts. Now, not all situations like this are avoidable, but there are some things you can do to lessen the likelihood. We've seen organizations shut down but never take down their websites. That certainly sends a mixed message. Even more absurdly, we've seen defunct organizations that don't shut down their automatic email campaigns right away. That one's more rare for sure, but you'd be surprised the loose ends that some people leave. But for Daniel, if your organization is truly dissolved and someone gives to it later, just give them back the money with a sincere thank you and an explanation of the facts. Question 3 comes from Carmen in Arizona. Carmen asks, from the beginning, our nonprofit never really got the traction we thought it would. It's frankly been disappointing to all of us, but it is what it is. We know we probably ought to shut down, but we're not fully convinced we can't make it work, maybe just not right now. So if we dissolve and decide to try again later, won't we have to start all over? That's the question of the day, Carmen, and the short answer is yes. If you dissolve your nonprofit, that's about as final as it gets. The door is closed, locked, and the key thrown away. If you ever want to make another go of it, you would have to start all over as if the organization had never started. However, there is an alternative, and this is something we see many people do effectively, because sometimes it's right idea, wrong time. That's a very real thing. So instead of totally winding down, there is a way to effectively put the organization on ice to keep it alive, but basically in hibernation. The way to do this is to 1. Cease operations. 2. Inform your supporters to stop giving. The stop giving part isn't mandatory, but you need to at least communicate that you're not operating for a time. Number 3. Keep your bank accounts open. Number 4. Keep filing your corporate annual report. Number 5. Keep filing your annual Form 990. Now, that will most likely be the 990N e-postcard since you're not bringing in new donations, but maybe not in the first year or two post-shutdown. Number 6. Wash, rinse, repeat. You can keep a nonprofit on life support like this indefinitely. We've seen charities go into pause mode for a decade or more, only to be resurrected to operate again. This is a valuable strategy if you believe there's a real possibility that you could make another go of it down the road. Well, thanks to Anna, Daniel, and Carmen for this week's great questions about dissolution. Like I said at the beginning of the video, dissolving a nonprofit is a tough and touchy subject. It's good to be equipped with the answers and the alternatives when you get started down this road. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. Now go serve your community. Hey, do me a favor and don't navigate away just yet. We would really appreciate it if you would hit the like button below, as it really helps get our content recommended to more people. Subscribe if you haven't already, as we have great content coming your way on a regular basis. Finally, you can click the little bell icon to be notified of new content when we post it. To learn more about Foundation Group, you can visit us on the web at www.501c3.org. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.